Hey there, everybody, and welcome to Parent Matters, that show that's for parents and teachers to connect. More of a community than a show. And to start things off, let's bring in our host, James Baker. Hey, James.
Hey Tom, how you doing? Glad to be
Good,
back.
good. So, as I said, this is a community. We would love you to join our Facebook group, join the Discord as you see here. Call the phone number if you don't have computer readily available to you, or the email. And I understand we actually have a couple emails, something about after school tools.
Yes, Tom. Yep. Not as many emails as we'd like, but we're gonna get to that point. I know we will. But yes, we have a email from an anonymous person. I won't give out their email. And if you don't mind, I'm just gonna hop right into it.
Please.
So it says, my child is currently in kindergarten, but I'm not sure they're getting enough education from throughout the day. Is there any teaching tools I can use outside of the classroom to work with them for a few nights a week at home? Great question. And the first thing that I thought of with all the media and content kids are getting these days, and the VPK, the early childhood education that we talked about, as I said, even my son, when he went into kindergarten, he was extremely bored. And I'm not saying that in a derogatory sense, but like he already learned the things that they were being taught every day. So there is lots of things that you can do with your child at home. So this is more the beginning things here that I'm going to touch upon is for your kindergartners and first graders. It's not going to be prevalent to your seventh grader or eighth grader. But just there's so many little fun things you can do at home. A thing that I used to do with my children was do like a scavenger hunt. So Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, they come home on Mondays and they have to find things that start with the letter A around your house, right? So they're getting the letter recognition, they're phonetically, go find an apple. Like just fun little things because you want them at that age, in my opinion, and I know it differs from everybody. My whole thing when I was a pre-K teacher was I want them to be excited about learning. I want them to want to go to school and want to learn. So if you keep that excitement going at home, like, oh, we're going to do the scavenger hunt looking for things that begin with the letter A today. And Wednesdays you do B, and so on and so on. So that's just like a little fun thing that I used to do. But I also think that the roles of parents changed over COVID when a lot of schools were shut down and they kind of morphed into another teacher as well. So they might have picked up things to do as well. Cooking is fabulous to do with your children. You have your math in there, you have your hands-on activities, like bread or mixing, and let them measure out the milk, let them measure out the flour, 3/4. So all those little things that you might not think is relevant to learning and math, it's all there. And also fun things outside, you know.
Now, wait a minute. Now, didn't you also tell me that you use something like cards or something in your school curriculum?
Yes. Oh, a huge thing that we have. We call them task cards. And and I want to get into this on another episode. Obviously, not sponsors or anything, but there is a website called Teachers Pay Teachers. And it's teachers making curriculums and making activities that you can buy, download. So the cards that you're referring to are different activities on these cards. We cut them out, we laminate them, and we hand them to them. So today the ones I used, a few of my students were emergency scenario cards. And those are on some of their IEPs to differentiate going to the hospital or literally putting a Band-Aid on or, cleaning up a cut. So on the cards, there's a picture of somebody with a scraped knee, and it says, do you go to the hospital or do you put a Band-Aid on? There's a picture of a hospital and a picture of a Band-Aid, and they circle each one.
Now, I have to also ask, you said preschool and kindergarten. What about, are there any special tools for special needs? You know, I know one thing that's important is eye contact.
Yes. So for the special needs side of this, which is also prevalent to non-special needs, um, an extra tool. So a lot of the children I work with are that have autism, higher and low functioning, are very big on the iPad. It's just the way it is. It's a simulation thing, they're always on it. So as we learn more about it and we accept it, there are amazing tools online that we use every day. And I wanted to tell you, if you I had those in my notes. Brainpop.com is one of the greatest websites ever for
Yeah, I was
learning.
going to say, isn't there a couple sites that you said that even though they're not sponsors, you'd love to have them as,
Oh my
and this is
goodness.
one of them, right?
Oh, I would love to have BrainPop as a sponsor. I will sing their praises even if they're not a sponsor. It's a lot of animated characters. There's like the main character and his Fraser robot, and they cover everything. And they also have a BrainPop Junior for younger kids. And then it's a little hokey for, I would say, high school students, but for my children with autism and so they love it. And I love it. I think it's great. And the main character is a robot. Super cool. But they cover everything. We did a civil rights movement brain pop today, and it was great. So, but there's also, they make little tests on there that they can take. They make vocab that you can take. They make exercises you can do on what you're learning about, and you can all do that at home. And it's not free. I think there are some free options on there, but it does cost money. But it is, if you think your child is not getting, if they're not learning enough or they're capable of digesting more information and learning more, that is the first place I would go to.
Wow, that's great, man. Okay, so leaning towards, now you said you've been doing a lot more classes for special needs and you're getting ready to, or have you graduated your full certificate to be a special needs instructor at this point, or where are you at in that?
So um my main role is paraprofessional, but what I've been
Right.
back in school for now, I think what you're referring to is the RBT, the registered behavioral
Right,
technician.
right. I'm sorry. I thought you were taking classes to become an actual special needs teacher.
No, so my side of it is the
See,
behavioral
we're all
side.
learning something, folks.
So the side that I'm hopefully to get on, I'm not there yet, and I can't say that I'm registered. That's But what I'm in, my next step is my test through the school, become an RBT, registered behavioral technician, and that's when I start dealing with the behaviors, documenting the behaviors, um, doing a ABC data, that stands for antecedent behavior consequences charts and graphic. That's what I did today. I was after school. A little later, I was learning how to do the ABC charts and graphing. So all that information comes together so you can see what triggers. So the antecedent is what comes before the behavior. So we document, okay, so if you see on the chart, if the child's starting to yawn, he's getting tired, that's the antecedent. So let's try to prevent him getting tired, because when he gets tired, this happens, the behavior happens, then we have to do the consequence at the end. So it's really awesome. It's a lot of information. It's a lot to learn, but I'm really excited to, hopefully that'll be my role for next year.
Gotcha, gotcha. Now, you said that it seems kind of like your class is leaning more towards autism. So does that mean, okay, now what I'm leaning towards is I saw this report that we spoke about on CBS that said that while there seems to be an influx, I'm not using the right term for it, of autism. It's actually more from an awareness standpoint. And you had a lot to say about that. And that's kind of where leads us into where we're going next. So please, the floor is yours, sir.
Yes, absolutely. And Tom and I have had talks about this, and we'd love to make this a whole show about, are we more aware now than we were 20, 30 years ago? Or was it always there and we just weren't there for it? I think that, in my opinion, we are just now beginning to understand autism. We are just beginning to understand all these different, and when you say autism, like, I even feel funny saying it because it's just such a huge umbrella. You know, there's
Well,
it's
okay,
just
and I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Is that okay? In the 80s, and we went through this on episode 1. In my day, it was slow learning, stupid, of course, and retardation. So is autism kind of replacing the word retardation because of popular whatever? Or
I
because I know autism is actually its own thing, just like, Tourette's and everything else, which I'd love to bring up. And side note, I'd love to bring up the fact that TikTok is all a rage, and the fact that there's all these girls that seem to have tics, and there's the A and B camp saying on whether they do and don't, and then there's the C camp that says whether they do or don't, it's causing extra trouble. So, hey, there's a playful for you.
let me decipher the playful here.
Unwind that one, my friend. Going back to the autism thing. So, is it just a new term, or is it just being utilized as a new term until? Because I'm already hearing people that like to call people names using things like he's an autist, so therefore turning it into that dirty word now.
Yeah, no, and it's so have I. So the way that I feel, and I think I covered, as you said, I think we covered a little bit on the first show. It is so, when I hear the word autism, I think about there are so many different aspects of it. And I know how you said all encompassing, but for what every child, I mean, obviously we're all different, but every child that I work with, and I say child, they're, most of
Well,
them
and
half
again,
it.
not to interrupt, but you keep hearing on the spectrum. So now we've got levels, degrees of, but again, all encompassing term, or are we turning it into an all encompassing term? Is, I guess, the first question, is the easiest way to start from the layman's standpoint.
I would say it is an all encompassing term because you can't put a finger on child A has a hard time learning and or sensory issues or auditory issues, right? Child B can't be has a really hard time interacting with people. So it is when they say the spectrum, it is a huge spectrum. And that's, as you said, all encompassing. You can't just say this child has autism because of this. It's so many things, and they're so different. So, but as we were saying before, I think there's more of an awareness now, saying that there are so many people with this disability, and that's what I want to be a proponent for, an advocate for, is the advocacy for this is it's becoming more and more prevalent, and the more that we know about it, and with the Tourette's that you just said, the Tourette's, spoiler alert, I know we talked about it. I would love to know more about Tourette's, and as you said, the TikTok that I've saw it too. On TikTok, people are saying they don't have it, they do have it. So I'm in talks right now
Well,
with
now
someone that has
Billie, what is it? The famous singer Billie Eilish.
Eilish, yeah.
Yeah, she says she has it, but she's under control. And there's a famous guy that's like a game announcer that actually does have it, and he's like, "Well, I do have it. I have tics, but those tics." So that's where it sounds like that's a wide open for its own show.
Oh, and I would love, and that's it's funny because in our English class, we're learning about journalism, and it's awesome. It's really cool. I work with the higher functioning group, but like I love doing stuff like this, and a lot of them are really getting it. And today we're talking about reliable sources. So again, I said spoiler alert. You know, Tom obviously knows. We really want to do a show on Tourette's. So I've reached out, and a few people wrote me back, and we're in talks now for hopefully our next show. This person I'm talking to now has Tourette's, has the tics diagnosed, and I would love to get, as we talked about journalism, a reliable source, and I think that is a
No,
pretty good
absolutely, because we're not here just to BS back and forth with what you've learned this week in class. It's hopefully, like I said at the beginning of the top of the show, which is having a community, therefore having a reliable source for them to come to. So that's kind of my goal in all this, and I know that's why you and I decided to do it, because that seemed to be yours as well. So lead us on to what we're going to do next without a better segue than that.
So as Tom said earlier about the whole, are we more aware of it now with the autism, the spectrum and everything? That is something I can't wait to dive deeper into. But when Tom brought that up and we were talking back and forth on it, when I first started working with autistic children, I came across this YouTube documentary, and I think it's from the early 80s, late 70s, when these children, young adults, have autism. And I've watched this 3 or 4 times. And again, I have experience in it. I'm not, I can't say I'm an expert, but I can say, oh, wow, that child has this, or that child has EBD, emotional behavioral disorder. I've worked with these behaviors, and seeing how far we've come now in my experience, working in the schools, and then watching how it was dealt with back then, it's shocking. Just shocking, in my opinion.
Now, do you mean shocking as in out of date, or do you mean shocking as in what's going on?
Well, a little bit of both, Tom. Shocking, yes. I believe the practices being shown here are out of date, but also what is going on and how we weren't equipped back then because there wasn't enough knowledge there wasn't enough information about what was happening and what was going on. I really think that this video is important. We're just taking a few snippets here and there just to get kind of to the core, just to show.
Yeah, because we're not here just to watch the movie. We're here to bring up a couple points that you find crucial in your viewing of it, as you said earlier.
No, absolutely. And disclaimer, what we're going to see, some of it is kind of shocking, trigger warning.
Yes, shocking, and that as well. Disturbing content. Do understand that one thing. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, man.
No, it's okay. No, just giving a little warning. But I encourage you, if you find this interesting, to watch the full documentary. There is a lot of good people on here too that are doing their job as best as they can, and even back then, understaffed and just so many children.
Well, even the guys that are mislabeling, guys and ladies that are mislabeling, they're not mislabeling out of like not respect. They're just, that's the words that were being used at the time, right? I mean,
absolutely.
Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and kick it in here. I'll bring it up, and here we go.
His name is Brian. Along with
so we're starting off on a bus here, obviously on a field trip.
On a bus trip to the zoo. Brian believes that somebody is following him.
Truck's following us.
As they'll say in a minute,
truck's following us.
This young man is suffering from schizophrenia.
Following us. That guy back there is driving me crazy.
And then we'll see that he's going to get into some behaviors.
Oh God. Oh God, they talk.
So nowadays.
Now is that the pair? Like, would be your job?
Yes. This person's obviously with the student child because of behaviors or what he might do. Then we see some violent behaviors going on here. So nowadays, if that child exhibits those types of behaviors regularly, they would be restrained and strapped in on a bus and being transported from school.
Oh my God, I'm gonna kill you.
Brian
Yeah, it's
suffers
like
from
what we
mania
did in
and
that
schizophrenia. He's been this way since he was 4 years old.
Where the kid jumped the pear.
Yeah, and
Brian lives here,
you know,
at Eastern
you get
State School and
desensitized to it
Hospital
because
in
I hear that
Trevose,
almost every
Pennsylvania.
day that I'm going to kill you. I hate you.
160 children live with him.
Now, this is a facility where a lot of these young adults are being
They
housed
suffer
and
from
live.
organic brain damage and autism. Some are hyperactive, some totally
So they're
withdrawn.
just all lumped in together.
Some are suicidal.
Just all lumped in together, yes. And now this part's very important.
So I could be with my mother. That may be hard to understand, but I feel as though once you're dead, you'll be able to be with the other people that are also dead.
So I wanted to talk about this part because.
And
so
I don't
she
even
wants
know,
to
and that's
join her
what's
mom?
So funny. Like,
So it's just
so
the
young
little
when she
clip of
died.
this,
I don't
which
even
I
know
think
what
is
she
very
looks
important to talk
like or
about.
anything.
They're lumping in
I just wish she was
these young
alive.
adults,
I
children,
was
whatever you want to
dead.
call
My
them,
mom died, my father
with
took off
this
from
young
me.
lady right here is very
They were
depressed
so
and
bad.
suicidal. And that's what I kind of have an issue with, that, you know, she's being integrated with the children that are autistic. You know, those are two different things in my opinion. Being severely depressed and suicidal with the children suffering from
She looks
autism.
a little Downs or something too. I mean, or is that just me judging?
That's a tough question to answer. 'Cause
Possibly.
sometimes I feel
Possibly.
like
I
killing
don't.
myself,
I
other
can't
times I'm happy
comment
and I
completely on
wanna
that.
live forever.
But her main, what she discussed in this
Jerry's
video is
parents
about
are
her,
alive, but because
how
of his
depressed she
muscular
is and
dystrophy
how
and
she wants to
emotional
join her
problems,
mom.
they didn't want him.
Wow. Okay. So let me get to the next shot here, and
And my point being there was just, you know, back then, goodness, it's, you know, I sound so old when I say back then, you know, that wasn't that long ago. But having
actually, to a lot of these people, this is back then. How was this? 90s, 80s?
I believe this was early 80s when this was filmed.
Well, that's dude. There's
I know that's
a lot of people weren't born. So
I know.
anyway, go ahead. What were you saying? I'm sorry.
Oh no, I just wanted to say that nowadays, and again, I could be wrong. Again, this is all my opinion and just what I've dealt with. And
Well, that's
but
what we're here for.
you know, they're not going to put a young adult who is suicidal and depressed in with children with autism, and that's.
So they're obviously better at. Well, that was kind of what we were saying at the header was, you know, about awareness and what more evaluation, and therefore kids are being, you know.
No, absolutely.
You all right?
Yeah, sorry, my cord just fell out of my.
That's okay. You okay? You all right?
Yeah.
We're ready to continue?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. And
so now this clip is going to focus on more children that are angry, which we call EBD, emotional behavioral disorder.
When they caught this
looks a lot like the home I went and helped film at.
And leg shackles.
Wow. Not that though. I didn't see anything like that.
So in my opinion, a lot of these children are suffering from emotional behavioral disorder, lashing out, violence.
Well, yeah, he was saying why he's in a rabbit suit.
Okay, it humiliates him and it restricts his movement. He's run away from here 4 times.
Yeah, he's saying they want to restrict his movement. He's disobedient. They want to humiliate them.
I won't run away again. I told him that. I told him I won't run away again. But if they were gonna put me in jail, you know.
So he is literally made to sit in a bunny suit, shackles on him.
Oh, so they made him wear the bunny
juvenile
suit.
detention centers for years and faced charges of breaking and entering and assault.
Oof,
for him, it was either Elan or jail.
The kid has no idea what prison
this is more
like.
of his
Somebody has
evaluation
got to
on the
introduce to him
child.
some realistic concepts of what's ahead of him, and he's gonna hit jail. if he doesn't change? What's going to happen to him?
So
He's
I can
5'6".
see the fact that he's
got
saying,
bright
we're
orange
trying to
hair
fix
and
him.
blue eyes. How long is he going
We
to last
don't
in
want him to
jail?
go to jail, but putting a child in
I'm not a
shackles.
dog. I'm not a.
I
Yeah,
think
it
we
sounds
might.
like
person anymore,
right,
It's
right,
supposed to be America.
wrong way of
I
doing
still
it.
have rights as a human being. To
And
walk
I think
around.
we might have skipped past it,
No,
but
we can't even
before
do that with these
there
things.
was they
I went
showed
to
Those things
25,
stay on him.
23. Did you
He
want me to go?
decides how
no,
long they stay
we're
on
fine.
him,
That might
not
have been
me.
me.
He
They
makes
showed
that decision.
children.
If
They
he
put
came
3
up to
children in a
resurrect him
dumpster,
tomorrow and
and they
said,
had to
"I want
live
to
in
get
the
back
dumpster
involved.
because of their
I
behavior,
want to
because they
change."
weren't going along
Okay,
with the
Because
I
they
want to
program.
weren't clean
participate.
or
I want to
something?
try
No,
again.
they just
would
weren't
come
going
off
along
like
with the
that.
program.
Okay, if he
And
wants to act like a criminal, he'll be treated like a criminal. It's that basic. Now, if that is robbing him of his dignity and
So
robbing him
it's just
of his freedom, then yes, I'm guilty of it.
Elan claims its graduates are now leading.
Wow.
yeah.
I can see where that's the wrong way of. 'Cause- All right. Now I can see and agree if the child was just what 14 looked like
Yeah, I would say
and
that.
was
Yeah.
just a troublemaker. You know what I mean? Like been no diagnosed, no issues. That's kind of like the down here they have the boot camp. If you've
Oh
been
yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah, if you've gotten into trouble a couple times and you're a young offender, instead of throwing you into jail to learn how to be a better offender, there's a lot that believe that they take them to a boot camp, basically kick their ass a little bit and make them realize that they can be a better person because a lot of them white, black, Latino, whatever. I'm not talking about a certain group of people here. I just want to make sure because some people go, "What do you mean by them?" There's just as many bad white kids in the hood. Uh, they really make them realize that they can be better. They can have a better life. And what he's kind of talking about is that boot camp mentality of I show you you don't need to be like a criminal, or I teach you this is what criminals are. I can
And I
see
think,
that
and
working in that case, not in an emotional distress case, though, because you want to fix the emotion first, right? I mean,
well, I think that is his intent. That is what you just said. I think that is the thought process behind this.
yeah, the scared straight thing.
Absolutely, they're troublemakers. They need to be
Right.
taught. They need to be taught a lesson. What they didn't know back then is this is a disorder. EBD is a real disorder. And when I worked
Now,
with,
explain. I don't mean to cut you off, but what is EBD?
so emotional behavioral disorder, the child, the behavior can go from completely normal, nothing's going on, and then something triggers them immediately. And this was a group that I worked with for about over a year. They become enraged, violent, and you have to be ready, and you have to have ways to combat that behavior. One of the biggest things that I did when they started, when I say the antecedent, I said that's just something that happens before the full blown. And sometimes you can work off it, you can predict it, you see the antecedent, okay, that's going to trigger it. So you try to intervene at that point. But a lot of times what I did was simply just removing the child from their environment, bringing them somewhere else. Maybe their trigger was the teacher. Maybe their trigger was what they were working on at that point. It's an escapism. They don't want to do their math, and then boom,
they don't want to lose their switch.
Yep, they don't, and it can absolutely revert back to our other show, how that young man lost it. And as it becomes, and this goes back to what we were saying earlier, which I can't wait to dig deeper on, the whole, we know more now of how to deal with these behaviors than we did back then. And we have more tools and we have more techniques to work with it and curb the behavior. No one's saying that this is going, nowadays, no one's saying this is going to cure this, but there are tricks and there are ways to curb it.
No, but okay, perfect example, the child on the bus. He started antecedent, you said? He started showing antecedent by saying the bus, that car is following us. That makes me mad. And then he got violent. So literally she had, and unfortunately, and that's why I asked you who she was, because they took a shot of her and she almost looked like she was kind of smirking, like, oh God, here we go. but where you said you would see that as a trigger and maybe go, no, he's just, I don't know. Or would you then kind of take his mind off the car that he thinks is following them?
So you're absolutely right. So the cars could be the antecedent to the schizophrenic. I don't know. I have not worked
Well, that
with
kid specifically said that car,
it's
hey,
fun.
that car's following us. That makes me mad. And then
Yep.
boom,
And
he
then
got
boom,
violent.
that was indeed the trigger that set him off for that typical
And
that
she had a
violent
moment
behavior.
there between, well, several moments between that. Well, of course, and we know as a filmmaker, they could have cut that shot of her in from any time in the trip, right? So the reality of filmmaking, folks, is that shot didn't necessarily, they didn't have, there's 2 cameras in that bus. One camera was shooting that. And during the ride, they took a single of her and intercut that in later. And they didn't do that maliciously, um, because, like you said, I'm assuming, again, like you said, I'm assuming that at the time they didn't catch that as a smirk. They just wanted to catch a quick reaction shot of her, so they're like pop a reaction shot in, and the editor didn't even notice that she was like, like that.
It could have been like, oh geez, she
But
knows,
that's a clear
that.
sign that those folks needed to learn more, which I hope you are.
And all the classes I've taken to work up to what I'm trying to become, the RBT, the registered behavioral technician, I've learned so much. And I thought, and I don't mean to sound cocky or anything, like I thought I learned it all by being in the classroom and seeing all these behaviors and literally teaching myself as I went when I started working with children with special needs. But there's so much more to, like I said, like the antecedent, big fancy word. Like I never thought to
No,
look
but
for
it's a
those.
word I'd never heard, so it's nice to get it
But
into the nomenclature, the
yeah,
common
just
purple word.
and that's what I look for now. Exactly. Like that is what I look now for with my children with the behaviors. I know what their antecedents are now, and it's the antecedent intervention. So if I know something like that's going to happen or it's beginning to happen, I try to, remove them from that. So it's a lot, and we know a lot more now, and we're
So
the better off for it.
do you guys interview the children at the beginning of the semester and kind of get those notes, those antecedents? Emily
Uh,
wants to play his
I don't.
games. Jamie likes to talk. Susie
Well,
doesn't pay attention.
there's behavior plans written up for the students. I'm just beginning to learn about that now, how they're written up. I know at some point there must have been something like that. I mean, and that's kind of correlates with like IEP meetings and learning the goals that are
IEP.
set.
Again, go ahead and explain that one to us. What's IEP?
Oh, the IEP is what if you have your child. So in my school where I work, it's all special needs. Individual evaluation plan, I believe it stands for. So IEPs are goals that that they need to work on.
Who
So
does those evaluations? Sorry, I don't mean to fire
oh
you
no,
with questions, but hey,
there's
I want to know.
there's a liaison, the LEA, and sorry if someone
LEA.
looks
What's
this
an
up.
LEA?
I don't know what that's. the LEA is in charge of writing the IEPs, and also the teachers have a lot of say in writing the IEPs. I don't do that because I'm the para. I've sat in on a
Because
few
you're not the
IEP.
behavioral person.
Yeah. Well, I
Now,
mean,
when you
well, the
go ahead.
IEPs don't necessarily mean behavioral. The behavioral plan is a different write-up. So when I was in school, I had I don't think I had an IEP. I had a 504, which is kind of like a step down from that, and it's kind of relatively the same thing, but with the IEPs. So one of my children's goals on their IEPs might be socialize more with other students. So something as simple as that we try to make sure every day that we implement that John Smith makes a little extra effort. And if he or she needs my help to take them and talk to Joe, I will try to.
But now, okay, I don't mean to be the backseat psychologist here, But wouldn't it make sense to have those? Because in the case of the child in the second thing, maybe they didn't know he was so attached to his Switch that he would get violent because nobody ever wrote that note.
So
Is that the things that are missing? Because
I don't think in any IEP they would go as far as say, do not take the Nintendo away from him. I think that a goal in the IEP could say something along the lines to work on redirecting child from a tangible object that he has because it could upset him. Or
I'd really
working.
love to reach out to her and hear the rest of the story. What happened before that? What happened? Because, the problem is with a big media thing like that, we hear about the incident. We might hear about like when the kid goes to trial, but we don't hear anything else usually unless it, some craziness happens around it. But this is just a big enough incident to be horrifying and small enough incident not to have anybody do a documentary about it. So it'd really be nice, dude, if you can reach out somehow through your channels.
I would love to, and I think that's a great idea. And for those watching that don't know what we're talking about, we did a show previously on a pair at a high school, which is what I am, a paraprofessional.
Volusia County.
In Volusia County, who was attacked by a special needs student because, as it says that we know of the information that we had through the media, was that she took the Nintendo Switch away and he lost it and attacked her
in the hallway. So that's what brings up all the questions from my standpoint is, how did it happen? We know she was the pair, not the teacher. So therefore why she could leave the classroom, but and why though she didn't have the Switch in her hands, but when he nailed her, she did have keys. So it'd be nice to know those things, like what triggered this, what happened, what was that show 10 Seconds Before Disaster? Where they would show the plane crash and they would show what happened.
Oh, they go, but yeah.
Yeah, it would really be nice to know why.
It's a great idea, but I can tell you firsthand that what I think happened, and again, just my opinion, was that child is on that line of he has his tangible object with him. He is so focused on it, and then it could have been time to put it away. We do a lot of breaks throughout the day, free time. They have to go on the iPad. They get just chill out for 5 minutes, which they need, which is great. But I think that child was one of those children that you just can't physically take them. You need to lead up to it. You need to say, hey, we're gonna in 5 minutes. It's time to put it away. Oh, you have to give them cues. Okay, in 2 minutes, it's time to you have to lead them up. So I think she could have been frustrated. He might not have been putting it away, and she took it away, walked out of the room. I think reaching out to her would be. I will look into that. It would be great. I would love to hear that.
I mean, now she may not even be allowed to talk to us because it's a criminal case.
Well, yes, it is now. Yeah.
But maybe we can at least talk to her lawyer or something like that. Because it would be nice to know the whole story.
Yeah.
Because right now there's so many judgments, and to be honest with you, right now it's been forgotten because there's little things like a Ukraine war and China
it's completely
after Taiwan and
completely forgotten already.
20-year-old dumbass is trying to prove how smart they are by leaking classified. You saw that, right? You don't know anything about this.
No.
See, ladies and gentlemen, my friend is so buried in his world that he doesn't even know the national news that a 20-year-old kid outed some of the worst secrets next to Snowden, not because he's trying to prove the United States is doing something bad, but to prove to his buddies he knew something.
That he could.
Yeah.
All right.
He did it on Discord. That's why I was like, So, but that's the problem is the disconnections that we need, get past. So anyway, moving on, we are at the next point, and I am ready to roll it, sir. Here we go, rolling now.
So now we have a child, obviously restrained.
He was admitted to Sagamore's autistic unit when he was 7.
And he's not even given a bite. 20. He's just a rag shoved in his mouth.
Billy was transferred to the Sagamore infirmary after he became self-abusive. He's lived here in restraints.
So they're saying
Past
he's
2.5
self-abusive,
years.
he's self-harming, which
But this
is
one we haven't found
still
an
very
answer yet,
prevalent.
and we've been working
Well,
very
yeah,
hard at it.
but that's
He's
not gonna. Wow.
beaten himself.
Okay.
So obviously, and I feel confident enough to say this, so that young man has a sensory issue. He wants the pain, like he wants to scratch, he wants to hit. I had
So
the
by
privilege.
tying him down like that, wouldn't he kind of learn how to like make himself hurt by pulling against it?
So actually that's a good question. Probably, with pulling the restraints and the pain. But I was fortunate
Told you I
enough
had my
to work
problems.
with one child once. He was one of the most amazing individuals I ever met in my life. But and I don't remember what he had. It was very rare that he literally felt almost no pain, and he would slam his head.
Wow.
He would slam his head repeatedly daily, and we had a bathroom in our room, on the sink in our bed. I had to go in. I had to move him away from the sink, and it was a sensory thing. And we had to take away the feeling that they were getting. So we would replace it with other sensory things that would feel good. We got him a bucket of Orbeez. I'm not sure if you're familiar with what Orbeez are. They're like
No.
there's these little balls that go in water, and they're just kind of like water balls. They feel nice. So we actually figured out to get him out of that behavior and that sensory from hitting his head to putting his feet in these Orbeez, and he liked how that felt. So it was
because they like tingle and move. Okay.
yeah, and it was switching out the different stimuli he was getting. So with this young
Or
man
just
here,
changing his attention. Just
yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
I'll be honest with you. I was going through anxiety issues when my mom got really sick, and instead of constantly complaining about it because people didn't want to hear it, I started itching. And what's so funny is, whereas unlike hurting myself, I scratched so much that not only would I bruise my entire arm, but it would become, like you said, it would become numb, and I wouldn't even really feel it anymore. So I'd scratch harder. So that kind of goes to show you how a psychological reaction can go to a physical reaction.
No, absolutely. And
So let's
what?
continue this, or what? No, go ahead, please.
Oh no, I was saying, and one of the techniques now that I've been learning about is taking away that sensation. So for scratching, so if you were one of my students and that was a behavior that you were doing constantly, scratching, we would try to make you wear a long sleeve shirt, and you would still continue the scratching, but you're kind of taking away that
Well, it's
sensory.
funny you say that, because that's what I'd do is I'd put something over it so I could rub it instead of scratch it.
So you're still getting you're still doing that movement, but you're taking the sensation, or you're taking the sensory
Right.
part of it.
Interesting. Okay, to continue, because you still got 2 more minutes on this clip that you wanted
In
to
every
see.
part of his body, he's thrown himself into the ground, into the floor, torn.
I just wanted to hear some of
with
his
hands.
behaviors.
He's rubbed himself against objects to raw skin.
Wow.
He's beaten his
Yeah,
head
it's
to the point of detaching his retina.
so this is severe.
Whoa.
Not once, but twice.
This
Any
this
way
is a
that-
severe
that I can
case,
think
but
of
coming up, they're
to
going to
use
show you
himself
something.
and injure himself. He's done it.
Oh my God.
Why is
This
this
is
child?
this is
Why
his
did
mom.
God
This is
create
quite sad.
That's all I've always wondered.
And as
What does it mean?
our name is Parent Matters.
has to
So
have-
this obviously affects the
Everything
And
parents.
this is all they can do is
What
put
is
him in
his
a
name?
helmet.
Yeah. So this is what
Why
I
is
wanted
Billy
to
here?
talk on a little bit about that. So he
I
does
don't
get up. They say he gets up 3 times a day,
Right.
and he gets up to walk.
Why is he freak as
3
soon as he
times a
puts the
day, Billy
helmet on?
Calhoun is made to
Or
walk,
getting him up?
so his muscles
Oh,
don't
made to
deteriorate.
walk. Oh.
The rest of the time, he's kept tied up. During those walks, he
So
talks
from what
carefully
just
about
my
his
opinion,
previous violence
right
towards the
here,
staff.
he seems that this is a positive thing for
Doctors
him.
at Sagamore have
So
tried drugs
why
and
are
special
they
diets to try and
restricting
help
this
him.
to 3 times a day? This
So
is
far,
a
nothing
goal
has
that he
worked.
should be working on constantly
Now they're considering
to
more
keep his
radical
mind
treatment,
off from the
including
sensory.
aversive
Make
shock
him want to
therapy.
do it.
Yeah.
A device is applied.
And by
to
the way,
body,
ladies and gentlemen, that's not Dean
which-
Stockton. Sorry, I just had to say. Okay, wow. That
So
was
it's
pretty intense. I mean, they're getting ready to take that kid and just give him shock.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. That's what it says. They just think that they can possibly give him electroshock therapy, and that will cure him. And scary. And
Now, is this about the same time as the Geraldo expose on the mental ill and the hospitals that basically ended up getting all those hospitals shut down?
I am not too sure on that. I know what you're referring to about that. I'm not sure
Yeah, because
when.
okay, just to let anybody know, I was think it was either the late '80s or '90s, early '90s. Geraldo Rivera, which this is one that made him famous for all you that were wondering why he was, uh, and it wasn't just finding Capone's vault and it being empty. He did an extreme expose while working with ABC, I think it was. Uh, Basically outing these places. And I just saw something yesterday where a psychiatrist, and this is part of a completely different study that I'm surprising you with this one, but this scientist or psychiatrist called this, he did this study about changing the mind. It's this whole thing. We'll talk about it in the future again for another show. But basically, what he did is he called a psych ward as a proving, he's a Canadian psychiatrist, and he called as this psychiatrist that was doing this study. And he was going to send in a few people to fake whether they were psychotic or not. Because what he had done just before that is he had got a group of people and he had gotten them to fake it and go into several different hospitals, and they were all admitted. They were all admitted on being psychosis and schizophrenic and all this. And then they were contacted and told to now tell the doctor, we're faking it. It's not real.
Wow.
In their record, they were all registered as people that had overcome their psychosis, not admitted they'd faked it.
Fake.
So then he did another study where he called this psych and he said he was going to send in some people that were going to fake it. A month later, they had rejected 42 people.
That actually.
He didn't send anyone.
Well, and that's
to
my
prove that we don't really know this stuff. We can only take what people are telling us and try to work within that. Like if you come into the hospital freaking out and saying my chest hurts, they're not going to go, is he faking it? They're going to go, okay, he's either having an anxiety attack or a heart attack. Let's check for a heart attack first. So therefore admit him as a heart attack. So therefore they're doing the safe thing. Whereas the public sees it as, oh, they can't even tell the difference between faking and not faking. So does that segue you into what you were doing?
Oh, yeah, no. Well, that's what I was just, going to revert back to the beginning, saying that at this time, all of it was just lumped together, with the schizophrenia, the autism, the depression, the violence, just all of it put together.
Well, I remember, honestly, I can tell you right now, I went to school with a kid who was put away because he was trouble. He was one of those ones they should have put in a boot camp, but instead he was sent to a psych and said, all right, you want to be unruly and trouble? We're going to fill you full of drugs and put manacles on your legs.
And I've seen it, and I've seen it firsthand. With that type of, I've seen the kids on the super high doses of medication, and they're a zombie all day. And then I've seen on the other side too, what you were saying, how that person went away. A lot of students I've worked with are going to wind up in homes, in group homes, because
and of course,
they won't
some
be able
of them now fake it because they like the drugs. I knew again another kid that I went to school with that he found out that Ritalin was awesome, so he would take one or two when he wanted it, and he'd sell the rest. obviously that means he
Well,
does
and I
not
think
have ADD.
well, I
You
think there's
know?
always going to be those people that
Yeah,
try to.
true.
And I think and that's something we're going to discuss hopefully on our next episode with a different disorder about people
Oh, with the Tourette's.
with the Tourette's.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So
And you
I
have
really
established this person is
yes, yeah, we have been in contact,
legitimate.
and I am very excited to get them on the show. We've been going back and forth on what we're going to be talking about.
Great.
Seems like a really, really awesome person. So that is things to come. And I really, really encourage everyone to watch the documentary. I mean, if you found this interesting, this was just, a few clips from it. We didn't want to do the whole
Yes,
thing,
I
but
forgot to even bring that up. What was the gentleman's name? Robert. Hang on. I have my moments. Robert Kotuk. He's the writer and producer of this film. So, and I gotta say, as far as how it was shot, my God, it was shot beautifully, and it seems like the filmmakers had a lot of respect for, I don't want to judge, but sometimes the filmmakers seem to have a little bit more respect for the subject than some of the people.
the people there.
Yeah.
And I really encourage you, because not focusing on the negative, like some of the people shown in this video, the people working there and the teachers are amazing. And I think I said that in the beginning, like, fast forward 40 years now, we're still understaffed and we're still trying our best, but
and people are threatening to quit because of like book bans.
It takes a special, to help it.
And yeah. So, and trans questions and things like that. Wow. I don't envy you at all. And just to say again, we're going to put a link in the description. It is actually Richard's channel, and please go there, because it's not only this documentary, but he's got a whole bunch of stuff he's done, and this seems to be a topic that he's very well versed on, and looks like a lot of those other things are quite excellently done. All right, is there anything that you have to add here, because we're coming up on an hour?
Yeah, no, I think that went really well. I'd like to give a special shout. I didn't tell you this earlier, but I just kind of thought of it earlier. Special shout out. I was at the Special Olympics this weekend. I coached.
Oh, you were a coach, yeah.
Yeah. I was with my boys. We're a track and field team, and they did amazing. And it was it's such a special event. No. So this was only my second.
I know everybody wins, but
So yeah, no, everyone we get certain ribbons, but there are times for the track and the long jump, it all gets. So this was the second meeting in a month. And then I think there's another one next month. So with their times, they'll move on, and then eventually I think it's like the statewide one at Walt Disney World, at Wide World of Sports. So they just
awesome.
did.
Maybe we can get
I was
some
just so
cameras out
proud
there and shoot some.
Yeah, there was one person with a drone out there, and so one of my boys was doing the long jump, and I'm gonna have to try to figure out where I can watch this. As he was running, doing the jump,
or
the
get
drone.
him to give us some footage, and we'll put it on.
Yeah,
put it on the show here. I mean,
the drone followed him as he ran, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, that's awesome!" So I just want to give a shout out to my team, and it was just super proud, and my children came with me too, and they got to see what I do.
Your boys went with you?
Yeah, so it was a proud dad moment and a proud coach moment.
So is the name of the team, or is just?
We're just from our school. We're just the Lions. There's just a few of us.
Hey, Lion-hearted. That's a good name.
But it was again proud dad moment and proud coach moment. But everyone, thank you for watching. We would love for your emails. We've only gotten a few. We would love to grow it more. Our email is myparentsmatter@gmail.com. You can also reach out to us here on the Discord, and I know we have a phone number as well.
321-401-7010. I'm reading it off the screen. Sorry, folks.
No,
and don't forget the Facebook group as well, Parent Matters. We want to be a community, like I said at the beginning, not just a TV show. or website.
So if you like what you hear, you disagree with what you hear, please let us know. We'd love to discuss it. We'd love your questions, comments, concern, and thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. And if you're an expert, reach out to us as well, because we'd really love to have you on. So I guess until next time, thank you very much for joining us. James, you want to take us out on this one?
Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and we hope to hear from you, and we'll see you next time.
Now's the time to understand. We've got the future in our hands. Let's get together and educate. Let's keep it simple, don't complicate. Let's save our future and educate. Let's save our future before